Hi guys, Wilhelm Rothman here. I need to show you how quickly and easy it is to generate code using the MySQL Workbench. First of all, I think the most important thing is to activate your WAMP server. So once you've got your browser open, then just type in localhost, and then you can either add in the string at the top or you can click on phpMyAdmin. Once you've done that, it will give you the root option to log in, and away we go. So open that first, and there's you can see there are no databases as yet. When we use the term or the word database, we must maybe start using the word schema, which is more used in documentation and academic literature, as well inside the MySQL Workbench. Next thing you need to do is to activate your MySQL Workbench, and once that comes in, you can see that it will automatically link with that specific WAMP server. Then you can click on it. It will open your environment, and then it will show you that there are no, and there we go, no schemas within your MySQL environment. So what we need to do is first of all click on File and then select New Model, and it will then by default create a schema called MyDB. We can change that later on. Don't worry too much about it. Then the next thing to do is we can now obviously just start adding tables in here. So we can click on Add Table, but I would suggest make a drawing of your ERD, and then we can actually then just say, right, let's add a diagram and work off a diagram. So if we then add in the diagram, it's much easier. You've got this grid, and we can click on Table. So you can click on Table there. There's your table, and once you double click on the word table, we're going to have a typical scenario which I want to illustrate to you. Let's use a scenario of student enrolling for many subjects, and one subject can be enrolled for many students. So I'm going to type in that specific table name student, and yeah, then let's decide on a primary key, and I'm just going to use student, let's just say student num, and then you can see there that's your primary key, and it's not a primary key, basically cannot have any null values, and we'll just index that as well. Okay, and then just to have another column name there, we're going to call that student name. Nothing serious, and we'll stick to the varchar. That's fine. Then I'm going to add another table, and this table, just double click on it, and this table I'm going to call subject, and as a primary key, let's call it subject code. Please note I'm not making use of the notation putting TBL in front. You must sort that out, whatever naming convention you want to use. You can see I've already indicated student num as integer, and then we can also go for subject code, and that is your primary key, and we can uniquely index that. Please note you can also use auto incremental if you want to auto increment your key. So let me just then make it a little bit slightly bigger, and then also let's just add in there subject name, and we'll stick to the varchar 45 just to make things easier, and that's basically it. So right now I've got subject, I've got student, and one student can take many subjects, and one subject can be taken by many students. So it's a many-to-many relationship. So in order to create this many-to-many relationship, it's very, very nice and simple within the MySQL Workbench. We click on the many-to-many sign. So we click on the many-to-many sign, then click on the entity student, and then click on the other entity subject, and boom, we've got the linking entity or bridging entity, so-called entity that's created. And there you can see you've got one-to-many, and the crow's foot notation one-to-many. But I don't like this name, so I can just double click on there, and we can call this I'm just going to call this stud sub stud sub relation or stud sub entity, And then here you can see it actually created the column name for your student number. But we can also to indicate where, because sometimes people use a different description for that. We don't want to do that because you can get confused. So let's use student num there, and let's use subject code, which coincide with what you've created in these two entities. And then what does that describe? Now obviously they can have many assessments, then you must bring in a date to make it more unique, but in this case we're just going to put in a specific mark. Let's just assume that they write one test for that specific student number, or the student taking that subject one test, and this mark should be, let's just select a quick one there, let's just say it's double, and yeah, that's basically it. And now we've got a nice ERD, and obviously you could have drawn this on pen and paper or in Visio. You don't need to do that anymore, or in Word, but make use of the MySQL Workbench. So the next step is, okay, how do we map this directly into your MySQL database? Good. First thing you need to do is to save this model. So I'm going to say save model, and I'm going to call this student subject database, whatever. I've got it there already. So I'm going to save that. And the next step would be to obviously take the database, forward engineering that, and you can see all the necessary things. Just check that it's correct. Your port, the username, there's no password there, and the instance. Click on next. You can check these features later, and then it will generate the code for you. As easy as that. And there you can see export MySQL table objects. There are no view objects and so forth, but we can just do that. There it actually created the schema for you. I'm just going to take out these. You can actually edit these, the code right there. So I'm going to take this out. Excellent. And then if you click next, it will, oops, maybe I missed one somewhere. Made an error there. And then when you click next, it will generate the code, and boom, there's the code. Now we need to check what is happening within our MySQL database. All right, I'm just going to remove the MySQL Workbench. There we go. And then press F5 here on the PHP MyAdmin to refresh the screen, and let's see what happens. The moment you refresh, you can see, aha, there's my database. And yes, I've got the student table there, I've got my stud sub table there, and I've got my subject table there. Plus, I've got the necessary constraints imposed on the table. So I've basically done almost no coding. All that was needed was a perfect understanding of your relationships that you had to set among your entities. I thank you very much.